All right, so today we're going deep on a pretty compelling topic.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, you want to explore the idea of a lost civilization from the Ice Age.
That's right.
And you've pointed us to the Graham Hancock interview on the Lex Fridman podcast.
Yeah, that's a great starting point, I think.
It's a long one.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going to extract those golden nuggets.
Unpack it.
And figure out why this topic is causing such a stir.
Yeah, it's definitely controversial.
Yeah, Hancock is, he's not just some guy on YouTube with a conspiracy theory. He's a respected author.
Oh, for sure. He's been researching this for decades.
Decades, yeah. So where does he even begin with this whole lost civilization idea?
Well, he starts by asking a really fundamental question.
Okay.
Why did it take so long for civilization to emerge?
Right, we're talking about Homo sapiens walking the earth for, 300,000 years or more?
Yeah, over 300,000 years, but it wasn't until about 6,000 years ago that we see these complex societies popping up.
That's a huge gap. It's like humanity was stuck in first gear for most of its existence.
Yeah.
So what's Hancock's explanation for this?
Well, he's not satisfied with the mainstream archaeological view that attributes the rise of civilizations like Sumer Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China around the same time to mere coincidence.
Okay.
He sees a pattern there.
Oh, interesting.
A missing piece of the puzzle.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What's this missing piece?
Well, he believes that these seemingly independent civilizations might have been influenced by an earlier, more advanced civilization that existed during the last ice age.
Wow.
And the linchpin for this theory is Göbekli Tepe in Turkey.
I've heard of Göbekli Tepe. It's that site with the incredibly intricate stone carvings, right?
Exactly.
But how does that prove a lost civilization?
Well, Göbekli Tepe is dated to about 11,600 years ago.
Wow.
Which is thousands of years older than any other known megalithic site.
Really?
Not only are the carvings complex and sophisticated, but the sheer scale of the structures is mind-boggling.
Hold on, you're telling me that people who are still hunting and gathering managed to build something as complex as Göbekli Tepe?
It seems that way.
That completely upends what we thought we knew about early humans.
It really does. It suggests a level of social organization and technological capability that we just don't typically associate with hunter-gatherer societies.
So is Hancock saying that these hunter-gatherers were actually more advanced than we give them credit for?
That's the core of his argument.
Okay.
And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried around the time of the Younger Dryas event.
Okay.
A sudden and catastrophic climate shift that occurred around 12,800 years ago.
Okay, the Younger Dryas, we're talking plunging temperatures, mass extinctions, maybe even impacts from space.
Yeah, all of that.
That sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, it was a major upheaval.
But is there really enough evidence to link it to a lost civilization?
Well, it's a controversial theory for sure. Hancock believes that the Younger Dryas event could have been the cataclysm that wiped out this advanced Ice Age civilization, leaving behind only scattered survivors and just fragments of their knowledge.
So he's basically saying that these survivors could have passed down their knowledge and skills to later cultures, influencing the development of the civilizations we know today.
That's the idea.
Fascinating.
He points to flood myths found in cultures all around the world as possible evidence of a shared cultural memory of this cataclysmic event.
So these stories might be based on a real event.
Potentially.
Passed down through generations. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a compelling idea.
But is there any other evidence to support this claim?
Well, Hancock points to some ancient maps, like the Piri Reis map, which seemingly depicts the world as it looked during the Ice Age.
Really?
Including Antarctica?
Wait, a map of Antarctica from the Ice Age? That seems impossible.
Right. It's hard to imagine how they could have had that knowledge. Mainstream archaeology tends to dismiss these maps.
Okay.
But Hancock believes they point to advanced seafaring and mapping skills that could have only existed in a lost civilization.
Wow.
He's also drawn to the Giza Plateau in Egypt.
Okay.
Specifically, the Sphinx, which shows signs of water erosion.
I've heard about that. So, is he suggesting that the Sphinx is older than we think?
He argues that the water erosion patterns suggest the Sphinx could be far older than conventionally believed.
Wow.
Potentially dating back to the Younger Dryas period.
Wow, that would be a game changer.
It would completely rewrite our understanding of ancient Egypt.
And, of course, we can't talk about Hancock without mentioning the Great Pyramid.
Of course not.
Does he tie that into his lost civilization theory as well?
Absolutely. He questions the conventional dating and purpose of the Great Pyramid, highlighting the lack of internal inscriptions, the massive granite blocks used in its construction, and the mysterious subterranean chamber.
He's not convinced it was just a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu, right?
He's not. He believes it might be a renovation of a much older structure, possibly built on a pre-existing platform that dates back to the lost Ice Age civilization. He even challenges the traditional explanation for how the pyramids were built.
Come on, are you serious? Everyone knows the Egyptians used ramps and wet sand to move those massive blocks. How else could they have possibly done it? Is Hancock suggesting aliens were involved?
Not necessarily aliens. But he does find the traditional explanation inadequate.
Interesting.
He argues that wet sand and ramps simply wouldn't have been sufficient to lift those huge blocks to such heights.
Okay, so he's throwing out the textbook explanation.
He is.
But what's his alternative? Does he have a more plausible theory?
Well, he doesn't offer like a definitive alternative, but he points to other ancient megalithic sites around the world where the stones are so perfectly fitted together that it seems impossible with the tools and techniques we assume they had. He's basically saying we might be missing something, you know?
That our understanding of ancient engineering might be incomplete?
That's a bold claim.
It is.
So where does shamanism fit into all of this?
I
know Hancock sees it as a key part of his theory.
He does. He believes that shamanism, which he describes as the practice of connecting with the spirit world through altered states of consciousness, was central to the development of civilization. He sees it as a driving force behind early science astronomy, even architecture.
Hold on. He's saying that ancient shamans were basically scientists and engineers.
Well, he believes they were driven by a deep curiosity to understand the natural world and the cosmos. And that they used altered states of consciousness to access knowledge that was beyond the reach of ordinary perception.
And how does he connect this to the idea of a lost civilization? Is he suggesting that shamans from this advanced civilization were the ones who spread this knowledge to other cultures?
That's right. He theorizes that a group of advanced shamans, perhaps those who survived the Younger Dryas cataclysm, could have traveled the world, sharing their knowledge and practices with other cultures.
So what kind of knowledge are we talking about here? I mean, what exactly could these ancient shamans have known that would have been so valuable to other people?
Well, he believes they may have possessed advanced knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, engineering, and perhaps even medicine.
Really?
He sees the similarities in ancient myths and symbols across cultures as evidence of this shared knowledge passed down through generations.
Now, this is where things get really wild. Hancock is saying that psychedelics played a key role in this knowledge transmission.
Yeah, that's a big part of his theory. He's particularly fascinated by ayahuasca, a powerful psychedelic brew used by indigenous cultures in the Amazon rainforest.
And for those of you who aren't familiar, ayahuasca is made from a combination of plants that contain DMT, a powerful psychedelic compound.
It's traditionally used in shamanic rituals and ceremonies for healing, divination, and spiritual exploration. It's important to note that ayahuasca is a serious and potentially dangerous substance.
For sure.
And should only be used under the guidance of experienced practitioners.
Absolutely. It's not something to be taken lightly.
Right.
But Hancock believes that ayahuasca and other psychedelics played a crucial role in the development of human consciousness and culture. Allowing our ancestors to tap into a source of knowledge that we've largely lost touch with.
So he's not just talking about tripping out. He's saying that these psychedelic experiences could have led to real scientific and technological advancements.
That's what he's arguing.
Is that what he's getting at?
Yeah, he argues that psychedelics can dissolve the boundaries of the ego and allow us to access a non-ordinary state of consciousness where we can connect with a deeper level of reality. He believes this is the source of the profound insights and knowledge that shamans have traditionally accessed.
Fascinating idea.
It is.
But I have to ask, is there any scientific evidence to support this claim? I mean, is there anything beyond Hancock's personal experiences to suggest that psychedelics can actually lead to these kinds of breakthroughs?
Well, there's a growing body of research on the effects of psychedelics on the brain and consciousness. And some of the findings are pretty compelling. For example, studies have shown that psilocybin, the active compound in magic mushrooms, can increase neural connectivity.
Interesting.
And promote the formation of new neural pathways.
So it's possible that psychedelics could help the brain make new connections and think in new ways.
That's what the research suggests.
That's fascinating.
And there are also studies showing that psychedelics can lead to lasting increases in creativity, empathy, and open-mindedness.
Okay, so there's at least some scientific basis for Hancock's claims.
There is.
But I'm guessing not everyone in the scientific community is buying this whole psychedelic shaman theory.
Oh, definitely. Not many archaeologists and anthropologists are highly critical of Hancock's work, arguing that it's based on speculation, cherry-picking of evidence, and a romanticized view of ancient cultures.
Right.
They point out that there's no concrete archaeological evidence to support the existence of a technologically advanced Ice Age civilization.
So they're basically saying, show us the artifacts, the ruins, the tangible proof.
Exactly. They argue that Hancock relies too heavily on interpretations of myths and ancient texts, which they see as symbolic narratives rather than literal historical accounts.
Right.
And they dismiss his interpretations of ancient maps, like the Piri Reis map, as wishful thinking.
They probably argue that ancient cultures were capable of impressive feats of observation and navigation without needing to invoke a lost civilization.
Right. They point to the Polynesian navigators who could sail vast distances across the Pacific Ocean using only the stars, waves, and currents as their guides.
So they're not denying the achievements of ancient cultures.
No.
They're just saying that we can explain them within the framework of our current understanding of history and human capability.
That's their position. And when it comes to the Great Pyramid, they point to the abundance of archaeological evidence that supports the conventional view that it was built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu.
They'd probably argue that while there are still mysteries surrounding the pyramid's construction, there's no need to invoke a lost civilization to explain it.
Precisely. They also point out that the water erosion patterns on the Sphinx could have been caused by periods of heavy rainfall in the region, which are known to have occurred in the past.
So it's a matter of interpretation.
It is.
Hancock sees evidence of a lost civilization, while mainstream archaeologists see the same evidence and interpret it differently.
Right.
It's like looking at the same painting and seeing different things.
Yeah, it's a classic case of paradigm clash.
Right.
Hancock's theories challenge the fundamental assumptions of mainstream archaeology.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising that they've met with resistance.
So where does that leave us? Are we supposed to choose sides in this battle of ideas?
I don't think it's about choosing sides. It's about being open to different perspectives, critically evaluating the evidence. And recognizing that our understanding of the past is constantly evolving. Just because we haven't found conclusive proof of a lost civilization doesn't mean it didn't exist.
Like that's saying absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
Exactly.
But also just because someone claims something doesn't make it true.
Right. We need to be both skeptical and open-minded.
Right.
What do you think? Does Hancock's theory seem plausible to you, or do you side more with the mainstream view?
You know, I got to say, I'm kind of torn.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I love the idea of a lost civilization with advanced knowledge. It's like something out of Indiana Jones.
It's a very romantic idea.
Right. But on the other hand, you know, I also see the importance of sticking to the evidence we have.
Sure.
And not getting carried away by speculation.
Right.
It's a tough one.
Well, I think that's one of the things that makes Hancock's work so compelling.
Okay.
He sparks our imagination.
He does.
And encourages us to think outside the box, even if we don't necessarily agree with all of his conclusions.
Right. He makes us question what we think we know about the past.
Yeah.
And consider the possibility that there's still so much we don't understand.
Absolutely.
It's a bit like staring up at the night sky.
Yeah.
And realizing how vast and mysterious the universe is.
Exactly. And that sense of wonder and mystery is something that often gets lost, you know, in the dry academic approach to history.
Right.
Hancock brings it back to life.
Yeah.
And that's why so many people find him so engaging.
He's definitely a master storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
Even if some of his tales are a bit more speculative than others. So what does this all mean for our listener?
Well,
where do they go from here if they want to explore these ideas further?
Well, the beauty of a deep dive like this is that it's just the beginning.
Okay.
It's a springboard for further exploration.
Oh.
We've given you some key points from Hancock's interview. We've highlighted some of the controversies and presented some alternative perspectives. Now it's up to you to decide what resonates with you and where you want to go from here.
There are tons of resources available online and in libraries if you want to learn more.
Oh, yeah.
About the Younger Dryas, Göbekli Tepe ancient maps, the Great Pyramid.
Yeah. Tons of stuff out there.
You can also delve deeper into the world of shamanism and psychedelics.
if you're interested in that.
Always remembering to be respectful and responsible in your exploration.
Yeah, that's key.
And most importantly, don't be afraid to ask your own questions. Challenge your assumptions.
Exactly.
And form your own opinions.
That's what it's all about.
After all, that's what Hancock does.
Right.
And that's what makes this whole subject so fascinating.
Absolutely.
Here's a final thought to ponder as you continue your journey. If there was a civilization advanced enough to map the world during the Ice Age, what kind of technology might have enabled them to do so? Mm-hmm. Was it something we can even fathom with our current understanding of physics and engineering?
It's hard to say.
Could there be remnants of that technology still waiting to be discovered?
Maybe.
Perhaps hidden beneath the ice or buried deep within the earth.
It's a tantalizing thought, isn't it?
It is. And who knows, maybe someday you'll be the one to uncover those lost secrets and rewrite the story of human history. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop diving deep into the mysteries of the past. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.